What's going on, everyone? Welcome in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm, YouTube, Twitter, the BSN app, wherever you're watching. We appreciate you guys joining in here and joining us on a Tuesday with a full slate of baseball games to dive into tonight to give you guys some betting picks, props, all that good stuff. I got Jon Impemba with me here. What's up, John?
Servo, good to see you, man. It's big 12 games on the DFS main slate. There are games happening before 7 o'clock's game, so full day of baseball. Some of these games may be getting rained out, though. Again, I live 10 minutes outside of the city of Boston. Just had a nasty storm roll through, and I know there's some more rain and thunder working its way up the East Coast. So some games that if we're betting on, we're going to have to pay a little bit of attention to when it comes to the weather.
Yeah. I looked at this whole slate and just, the weather issues are just like kind of the thing whether you're playing DFS or betting on games. You have to have the back of your mind, and it kind of ruins some of the picks you might be leaning towards. But just kind of the way the summer goes sometimes, these thunderstorms are always popping up. So just got to keep it in mind. But yeah, we'll touch on all of our baseball picks for tonight. If you got any of your own that you want to throw at us, definitely hit us up in the chat on YouTube or tweet at us or comment in the Discord wherever you're watching. To throw out some picks, questions you got for tonight, and we'll get to all of those. But wanted to start out here because one of the big news just in the sports landscape and definitely sports betting world is that Saquon Barkley is back with the Giants, ending his holdout, signs his new contract, and you have an awesome article up on fantasyalarm.com right now. That was up earlier today, so everyone go check that out, breaking down some of the impact from the betting and fantasy angle for this. But just kind of going through this, so it's a 1-year deal worth up to $11 million. The base value is that franchise tag that he wasn't going to sign initially, but there's $900,000 worth of incentives according to ESPN here. And some of those thresholds are 1,300 rushing yards if he gets to that. 11 touchdowns, 65 catches. So when you look at this and we kind of flip it to the betting angle here, his DraftKings total rushing yards prop right now is at 1,050 and a half rushing yards, minus 110 both ways here. But when you look at last year, he had over 1,300 rushing yards, which if he gets that threshold I mentioned, the 1,300 rushing yards, he would get that incentive in his contract. But the prop is a little bit low here. What do you look at for this, prop if you're looking to bet his odds for this season?
I mean, I have to assume that it's just health being baked into that total, right? I mean, he's missed a handful of games every year, really, except for his rookie season. And last year he just didn't play Week 18 because they already had it locked up. But 1,050, it doesn't take much for him to get that, even if he was to only play 14 games, in that range. So I like the over. Again, I am not an injury forecaster. I'm not a doctor. You can't predict the future here. He is healthy. He is going into the season healthy. He's going to be ready to go. And if that is the case, I don't understand how he goes less than 1,000 yards here. Given the offense, I think the Giants are poised to take a little bit of a step forward in year 2 under Brian Daboll. Now, I know they have a tough division, and Vegas doesn't really like them either. They only set their win total at 7.5. So, either a lot of us are going to be very wrong on the Giants this year, or Vegas is going to get killed, given the way they have the Giants projected to perform, both as a team and some of the individual statistics that they have set forth for some of their players this year.
Yeah, I find it interesting too. So last year he had that, 1,313 rushing yards, 1,313. And it was his first year going over 1,000 rushing yards since 2019 when he had, just barely over 1,003. So Vegas is probably looking at these previous rushing totals, with obviously the injuries are part of it for him. But I think also with the fact that Daniel Jones is like a rushing quarterback, we've seen this with other rushing props for other, like the Ravens rushing props in previous years, the Eagles this year I've noticed, and last year too, just with Hurts rushing more. Daniel Jones showed that ability to run last year. He has previous years. You kind of wonder how much of that will be part of the game plan again this year. You assume a decent amount, but I think maybe that's part of it. The injuries, obviously, part of it too. But it is curiously low. I think Vegas is they're begging people to take the over here, just based on last year. And now with the new contract, everyone's like, all right, he's ready to go. But you kind of wonder, especially later in the season, if they're just kind of splitting his workload more, especially with those incentives. They don't want to pay him all this incentive money, but we'll see.
I agree with you. And yeah, listen, there are, the running back position itself is obviously a position that is prone to players getting dinged up, and he has a history, of that being there. I think Daniel Jones is going to take a little bit of a step back running the football this year. I think a lot of his rushing last year came more out of necessity. They didn't really have any wide receivers. The ones they did have really weren't performing. They were way down on their depth chart, having to reach for guys like Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James, who were 5'6" on their depth chart that had to be thrusted into starting roles here. Their offensive line was good, not great, and a lot of that time led to Daniel Jones having to move about the pocket, scramble around. Because like you said, Daniel Jones ran for 700 yards last year, but Saquon still got 1,300. So I really don't think necessarily Daniel Jones is going to be something that prohibits Saquon Barkley from getting those numbers, because if you just do is like per 16, per 17 game averages over those years where he only played 13 or 12 games, he was well on pace to go over the 1,000 yards. He's that good of running back. The talent is never a question with Saquon Barkley. It's just, can he stay on the field? The injuries have been different injuries all the time too. He had an ankle, like a reoccurring ankle injury where like 3 separate instances he had somebody like just step on his ankle, right? Like nothing that he did himself to turn the ankle, just unfortunate circumstances there causing problems 2 years ago. So yeah, listen, again, I think it's pretty low. And if you're looking at some NFL futures, man, there are some pretty low numbers there. And, I do the Prize Picks article. You do the Underdog Fantasy article. Over there, you kind of get a little bit better of your bang for your buck because, for example, DraftKings Sportsbook, you can't parlay player props. But so like minus 110, locking your money up for Saquon for a full season doesn't really feel like the best payout. But if you go over to Underdog or Prize Picks and you pull the Saquon number out there with another pretty low player prop, I've been looking at Cam Akers at 725 and 750 rushing yards, and I'm like, that feels far too low. He needs to run for 30 yards a game to hit the over on that if he's to have the job all year. Seems pretty doable. Well, now you can pair that up with a Barkley in Prize Picks or Underdog and go get 3-4x your payout, depending on how you want to play it. Yeah. Some sites like RT Sports, they can give you a 40x return. So, it all depends on how you want to get there. But bang for your buck, if you're looking to lock something up for a full NFL season, there's good returns here on some of these player props out there.
Yeah, if you want a really good return, Saquon Barkley plus 1,500 to lead the league in rushing yards over on DraftKings too. The 5th shortest odds behind Nick Chubb at plus 450, Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry at plus 650, and then Bijan Robinson at plus 1,000. You're kind of, betting against those other guys too, but also bet if you want to bet on Saquon, playing pretty much a full season, going, having a better year than last year or just about that, but it still is good enough to lead the league in rushing. I think that's an interesting way to go.
BetMGM has him plus 3,000 for Offensive Player of the Year. Pretty much the NFL, only quarterbacks win MVPs, and it's wide receivers and running backs to win the Offensive Player of the Year award. The last time a quarterback won the Offensive Player of the Year award was 2019 with Patrick Mahomes. Since then, it's been wide receivers and running backs, Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, that crew there. So if you're willing to bet on Barkley at the plus 1,500, you might as well also throw some money at BetMGM plus 3,000 to win the Offensive Player of the Year, because Derrick Henry won it when he led the league in rushing there. Good opportunity probably for Saquon to lead the league in rushing. Would definitely get double-digit touchdowns. We know what his passing game involvement would be. Plus 3,000 to win the OPA could be a spot.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Giants win total at 7.5. Vegas has it on DraftKings Sportsbook. And the over is plus 100, under is minus 120. So even leaning towards the under there is the juice. I find that very interesting because I don't think, we were tracking this previously with the Saquon holdout going on. And now that he's officially signed and back, this win total hasn't moved. So maybe they're expecting him back, but just kind of goes to show that like a running back signing a contract and back, even a star like Saquon doesn't really move the win total much for the Giants here, which I find very interesting because if he does miss a game or two, I don't think it's going to impact whether they are, projected to win or lose whatever game, because they have operated without him at times, and running backs are like that in the NFL. So
it feels like only quarterbacks, move lines when it comes to win totals. So
exactly. So yeah, I'd probably lean the under here. I mean, this is a team that made the playoffs and won a game in the playoffs. I find it very interesting that the under 7.5 is kind of like the juiced favorite here.
Because the thing is, you got to look at their schedule, right? They already play in the NFC East, so they have to go out, beat the Eagles, beat the Cowboys. They can probably beat the Commanders. I'm not really high on them. No. But then they go and face the AFC East, where they have the Patriots, they have the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins.
That's tough.
Do they win one of those games? Maybe they beat the Patriots. Do they win any of those games? Right. So that's a really tough out of conference schedule that they have. They're already in a very tough division, which maybe they split the Cowboys in those matchups. But still, you're already now looking at yourself maybe 5 losses on the schedule before you even really look at what else they got going on there. So probably my thinking on why the Giants are where they're at.
Yeah, and I was just looking at their schedule now. So they have the Raiders on the road too, which is tough. They have the Seahawks team at home, but the Seahawks could be better than them. They got the 49ers as well on the road.
Yeah, not on that one, right?
Tough schedule for them. I mean, even when you look at their AFC East, I mean, this isn't like the NFC the AFC West where teams have to travel far to when their home games. Like they get the Jets at home, but it's basically, I mean, that's going to be a split crowd basically. Yeah. At the Bills and stuff, at the Dolphins, not like they get the Dolphins at home, so that's tough. The Patriots at home, but I like the Patriots more than the Giants this year overall anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, a tough schedule for them. So probably leading the under there on the win.
Yeah, the under win totals on the AFC East and NFC East teams are going to be interesting just because of that schedule alone right there.
Yeah.
They're going to be beating up on each other, 2 really good conferences, top end talent wise. Why I was not very bullish on my Patriots and their 6.5 win total. I was like, I don't know. They may not win a conference game. And then they got to go play the NFC East and maybe they only beat the Commanders. So
Yeah, and if you look at both those divisions and kind of see all right, which teams might underperform, then it's probably the Patriots, and then in this NFC East, it's probably the Giants and Commanders.
Right, but the Bills are at 11.5. Would it shock you if they come in under that, given the schedule that they're playing?
No.
I don't think so. So
yeah, that one's just probably Vegas trying to save themselves of the 12-5 season or whatever. Yeah, so that's the Saquon talk. And again, check out John's article up on Fantasy Alarm right now to see some of his fantasy analysis for Saquon's ADP right now, and some of these betting odds that we were just talking through for his props and Giants win totals, odds, all that stuff. So check that out as well. All right, let's dive into tonight's baseball slate. We got a ton of picks to give you guys tonight, and let's start with our best bets here. What's your top pick tonight, John?
Yeah, I went Steven Matz over 2.5 earned runs. It's -120 over on DraftKings Sportsbook. Get to match up against the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team that we've been basically just plugging in against lefty pitchers all season long. Matz himself, obviously not having a good year here, so he's got to work his way through that lineup with Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, Evan Longoria, Rivera, Kelly, Corbin Carroll, obviously, even though he's from the left side, still hits lefties really well. So, it's a tough matchup here for Matt. So we're going to go the over 2.5 earned runs. That could be cashed by the first inning, honestly.
Yeah, I looked at the over in this full game too, just because the Cardinals and Diamondbacks offense is both kind of trending up right now. So
yeah.
I think, but at the one side that it is, I mean, the Diamondbacks are favored in that game, -120. I do feel more confident the D-backs touching up Matz than Merrill Kelly against the Cardinals. So Cardinals can be up and down, but yeah, the Diamondback side of that thing is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
All right, my best bet for tonight, I'm going with the Taijuan Walker over 4.5 strikeouts, -135 on BetMGM. Over in, this is a low strikeout prop for him. I feel like this should be a 5.5 possibly, because he's been over this 5+ strikeouts in 7 of his last 8 starts coming into tonight. averaging 6.1 Ks per start here. That's strong June and been a little up and down in July, but the strikeouts have still been there. At home here, he's got a 2.76 ERA at home and a higher strikeout rate than at home than on the road this year. At least 5 Ks over this total in 7 of his 9 home starts this season. And he's got an Orioles offense, which has been a little bit down since the All-Star break. Over the past week against right-handed pitching, they have a 243 WOBA, a 195 batting average, a low 6% walk rate, and a high 27% strikeout rate. Also a team that strikes out more on the road than at home this season, if you look at their overall K totals and rates this season. So I like the Taijuan Walker over 4.5 Ks here.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Like you said, Baltimore's been trending down. They don't have Cedric Mullins in their lineup, obviously, being on the IL right now. And a lot of their guys, they can hit for some power from the left side, but they're definitely not a contact team from the left side of the plate. So a good split advantage here for Walker. I do like that call tonight as well. Awesome.
All right, what else you got riding tonight?
Yeah, just kind of going back and forth, and I've been playing a lot of Washington Nationals and DFS. Jeimer Candelario has been one of those core plays for me. They just never price them up there on DraftKings when we play DFS here. So I'm going to go 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, minus 135 tonight here in that matchup. Getting the lefty Austin Gomber on the mound feels just like another great opportunity here for Candelario. And really this Nationals offense that just hits, they don't strike out. They just, they put so many guys on base and put so many balls in play that they just sometimes put runs up, and now they're hitting for power, which is something they weren't really doing earlier on this season. Give me Candelario hitting in the middle of that lineup against Austin Gomber tonight over the 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs.
Yeah, the Nationals versus lefties has been a matchup I've been targeting a lot this year because it's just when you think of the Nats, like obviously the record isn't impressive, so you think of like fading them more often, and their pitching is definitely not great, but their hitters against lefties has been a spot to target, like team totals, all that stuff. So
over the last month, 30 days, right? They have the 4th highest isolated power number at 212. They're 3rd in WOBA, and they're hitting 284, which is 5th in baseball. So
underrated.
Ton of power, ton of on base, all against left-handed pitching. And you look at that lineup, you're like, there's no names in this lineup. Like, how are they doing all that? Like, Meneses, Lane Thomas, CJ Abrams is finally coming around. Even as a lefty, he's hitting lefties. Candelario, Stone, Garrett, Alex Call, Kyber Ruiz. I play a lot of Nationals because I can list their entire batting lineup. But they put a lot of balls in play. You can't strike them out, and that leads to big innings against bad pitchers. So give me Candelario tonight against Gomber, man.
I have a feeling later on at 5 o'clock Eastern, you're on the MLB DFS live show. I feel like the Nationals might be a team that you might.
Yeah, I just need to cross my fingers that the weather holds out for them.
Yeah,
that's the one holdout here. They're not as bad of a situation as some of the other games they're in, but if the weather models shift just a little bit, Washington is one of the more notorious teams in the major leagues for just banging out games. They're just like, oh, there's some moisture in the air. We'll see it tomorrow for 2. So let's hope that doesn't happen today.
Yeah, and I am in the DC area here, and I already know there's expected thunderstorms at some point. It's always like hit or miss whether they pass or whether they're staying for long. So yeah, keep an eye on the weather for that one. But obviously the prop there, if the game doesn't play, then you just get your bet voided, so it doesn't totally matter.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going with the Cubs here with a couple picks here. I'll go with the Cubs team total first. I'm targeting against Michael Kopech, 4.29 ERA, but his FIP is at 5.89. His expected ERA is at 5.42 right now, and the Cubs have been really good against right-handed pitching since the All-Star break. Top offense in some categories: 409 WOBA, 333 batting average, a 160 weighted runs created plus. And they're averaging 6.9 runs per game since the All-Star break, with at least 5 runs in 7 of the last 9 games. So I like this team total over 4.5 to get those 5+ runs. A key factor here. So they're on the road technically against the Chicago White Sox. Obviously, with the crosstown rivalry there, It's not totally a road trip or anything. And they've been at home before tonight. They've been at home for every game since the All-Star break. So they've been home for the past week and a half and now just kind of staying in the same situation of being in their home city for tonight's game. So not totally a road matchup for them. I like them to keep the bats hot over 4.5 team total. And then just staying in that game, one guy I expect to be a big part of it because he's been red hot right now, Cody Bellinger, over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs, minus 115 on BetMGM right now. Just, since the All-Star break, he's a guy who's been really heating up, and it's coincided with his trade rumors. We'll see if he's dealt at the trade deadline, if the Cubs want to give him away, or if they're looking to maybe make a push for the wild card. But since the All-Star break, in 10 games, he's hitting 436, 1324 OPS, 5 homers, 15 RBIs, 9 runs scored in these 10 games. He's been over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 9 of the past 11 games, and going all the way back further throughout the whole month of July and into June, 18 of the past 21 games, he's over this prop. So I like how hot he's running, and he's got better numbers overall against left-handed pitchers this year, but still against righties and against Kopech, he's got a righty here, but against righties, 302 batting average, 846 OPS this season. So I like him to keep it going here, help the Cubs team total to go over as well.
Yeah, I like that. We played him in DFS last night as one of our core plays there. Great pricing, and he came through big time. Another play for me tonight, Ken Waldichuk here. I affectionately called him Ken Waldasuck on the RT Sports video this morning. Over 2.5 earned runs is plus 100. It's even money for a guy that on the season, let me rattle off some of these numbers and let you know how bad they are. This is overall against lefties and righties, by the way. He has a 401 WOBA allowed. They have a 542 slug, a 400 on base. They're hitting over 300 against him. In 23 games, he's allowed 16 home runs. His home run to fly ball, home run per 9 is almost at 2. His xFIP's 5.3. His FIP's 5.9. They have a 352 batting average in balls in play against them. It doesn't matter if you're a righty or a lefty. You absolutely just hammer Ken Waldichuk. So why on earth are the Giants, a team that has guys like Wilmer Flores, who is absolutely smoking the baseball right now, Austin Slater kills left-handed pitching, guys like that in their lineup tonight, and Ken Waldichuk, you're getting even money and over 2.5. Like, sign me up. This, if I'm wrong the year today, strike me down, I guess. I don't know. Like, it doesn't, I don't see this one going under the 2.5. So sign me up.
Poor Ken Waldichuk, his name just, you mentioned Ken Waldasuck. I know Howard has said Ken Waldayuck. So yeah. He's got that unfortunate name that it just, if he was a better pitcher, then we wouldn't say it. But
no, we wouldn't, but he isn't. So we are. So.
All right. On my next pick here, I'm going with the Brewers on the money line, minus 145 on DraftKings. I think I looked at the first 5 too, but I just like the full game money line too. Andrew Abbott, 2.10 ERA this year, very impressive, but regression's coming because he's got an unsustainable 95% left on base rate, a 192 BABIP. His FIP and expected ERA are way higher than that 2.10 ERA right now. And the Brewers against lefties since July, since the start of July, 360 WOBA, 215 ISO. This is also the third time they're seeing 2 of those
Abbott. Starts came against Milwaukee.
Third time seeing Abbott this month, and fourth time seeing him over the past 2 months. So they're very familiar with Abbott here. And the last time
they hammered him when it was in Milwaukee.
Yeah, at home on July 7th, not too long ago. 6 runs on 9 hits. So they had success there. I think back at home for them here, they're gonna do this very similar thing. I just don't see how Abbott has a good outing. And Corbin Burns on the other side, he's just looking more like himself lately. I've been waiting for him to get there. I've faded him at times this year, but 133 ERA over his 4 July starts, a pair of good outings against the Reds too. They faced each other a lot, and Burns has had success there. Also a 2.50 ERA in his 3 starts versus the Reds this year. In his career against the Reds, by the way, 2.52 career ERA versus the Reds. So he's always going out, putting together good outings against this division opponent. And the Reds, since the All-Star break versus right-handed pitching, below average offense. They've cooled down a bit. 303 WOBA, 26% K rate. So I'm looking at the Brewers here. They won again last night against the Reds. Now 9-2 against Cincinnati this year. It just hasn't been competitive. They've dominated the season series. I think they'll keep it going here. So I like them at home, money line. Give me the Brewers.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It was funny before that Abbott start in Milwaukee. We follow a lot of other people who tout out plays over on the new X platform. And someone had tweeted out Joey Weimer anytime home run, and he listed some like very specific stats. It's like Abbott on the road against righties, and then Weimer at home against lefties, and it was like a super small sample size. It was like 15 plate appearances. It's like, come on, like that's what your analysis behind this play you're giving out. Sure enough, Weimer homered like his first at bat off Abbott. I was like, son of a gun, like good on him. So so I'm kind of listening. I have Andrew Abbott on my fantasy teams, but I've also been like weary of the blow up because the numbers on Fangraphs they really don't feel sustainable. He needs to be missing those bats. His 2.10 ERA is a 4.6 FIP, like you said, a 4.62 xFIP. If he's not putting up double-digit Ks, he's going to get some hard contact against.
It's not. It doesn't make you feel good about it. I mean, obviously the on-surface numbers have been there, but I look at that blow-up we mentioned against the Brewers not too long ago.
A little breaking news here: the Red Sox have made a trade. They have sent Kike Hernandez to the Dodgers.
Wow.
So he's back to LA.
To the Dodgers.
Back to LA for Kike Hernandez. I don't have the full trade details yet, but figured if we can break some news on the show, why not, right? So Hernandez going back to the Dodgers. I would imagine absolutely nothing is coming back to Boston. He was on his way to be DFA'd because Trevor Story is a few days away from getting called back up and activated off the 60-day. So that's just clearing room for Hernandez here. This is going to be a player to be named, I would have to imagine, or something like that. So anyways, a little update there. Hernandez trade deadline soon. So trades are going to start trickling in over the next week.
A week away from today or yesterday.
Yeah. Next Tuesday. So week from today.
Yeah.
So there'll be those trade deadlines will be happening there.
Interesting, by the way, because maybe that doesn't move the needle too much, but the Red Sox are one of those teams that seem like they can go either way at the deadline. But do you think this kind of signals that maybe they're selling guys or rather than buying?
No, he was a guy that was he was not playing very well. He was a DFA candidate. He wasn't fielding and he wasn't hitting, and they just had guys coming back. So they needed to make a move. If he couldn't find a trade partner, he was going to get released. That's why I'm saying I would imagine the Red Sox just got a player to be named who probably gets DFA'd, right? Yeah. It's not going to be anything of significance here for Hernandez. And I'm not really sure where he fits with the Dodgers, honestly, either. But, a depth bat, I guess, but he's not hitting. So we'll see.
Maybe some cash considerations back to
it could
the
be
Red
cash
Sox.
Considerations. I don't imagine a return here being anything of worthwhile. He leads baseball in negative WAR. He's minus 1.4 WAR. So very
well.
Very
listen, if anything, if there was anything to get him back, being a productive guy, then it would be going back to the Dodgers, probably.
Yeah, that's probably.
I wouldn't expect him to be actually a decent player for them now. So
they're not trading for him without the idea of having him on their roster. So he'll find a way into that lineup. They sent Miguel Vargas down, a couple days, like a week ago. So they have some room for.
They needed
a utility player. So
defensively, they needed like a utility or like infield guy because there's only so many times they could have Betts playing, second and short.
Yeah, Chris Taylor moving around places. Yeah, Hernandez can find his way into that spot there for sure. If we get an update, I'll let you know who they got, but I can't imagine they got much going on there. My next bet, I like Blake Snell, plus 105 to get a win tonight. Padres here at home against the Pirates. The way Blake Snell has pitched this season, I understand the 7 walks last time out, not his most efficient outing, but I would have to think that the Padres win this game tonight. They're favorites on DraftKings Sportsbook here to get the win. Not a good lineup in Pittsburgh. So give me Blake Snell plus 105 to record the win tonight.
Yeah, I looked at the Padres. I got burned by the Padres last night. I took their
Well, they're
run
not a good
line.
baseball team for whatever reason.
Yeah, I
But
thought last night against the Pirates they'd win handily. I took the run line. They ended up losing outright.
me and 60% of the DraftKings field played Yu Darvish. So,
Yeah, he kind of blew up.
7 earned runs. I mean, what are we doing?
I think, yeah, but the Pirates have been bad against lefties too. They get better against righties, lefties.
Yeah.
So I think Snell can help them bounce back here.
They're minus 275 favorites to win the game on the money line, and you're getting plus odds on their pitcher to get the win. I mean, Snell was, the way he was been going for a while there, it feels like a pretty good bet there.
And kind of relating it back to last night, because Darvish got lit up and had them go into the bullpen earlier than they expected, we should see Snell in there for, at least 6.
Yeah, he'll throw 100 pitches. How long it takes him to throw those 100 pitches is always up for debate. But
he might walk 7 to get there, but if he gets the win,
exactly. So that's just what I'm looking for. I mean, they got Rich Hill going up against him. If Fernando Tatis isn't parking one of the seats before Blake Snell gets out of this game tonight, I'm gonna be upset. So.
All right, my next pick here, I'm going with Domingo Germán under 5.5 strikeouts, minus 112 on FanDuel. So looking at Germán's game logs lately, he's been at 9 strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 starts. So obviously it's a little risky going here, but I expect some regression back to his lower strikeout totals from earlier in this year. His recent stretch before that, those 9 Ks recently, he went under 5.5 Ks in 7 of his previous 8 starts, with 6 Ks in that lone outlier. So he's been right around this or lower in every start previously before he tossed that perfecto and has been on a higher strikeout run lately. But if you kind of look at his matchups too, he's been posting these higher K totals against some strikeout prone offenses versus righties this season, the A's, the Cubs, and the Angels. And he's got the Mets here, who on the season, 20.9% strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching, the 4th lowest in the majors. Over the past week, Mets have some strong numbers versus righties. A 20% strikeout rate still, a 340 WOBA, 12% walk rate too. I think Germán's going to just have a tougher time here. He might still have a decent outing, but I don't think the Ks are going to be there. He's averaging 5.6 strikeouts per start this year. So I think he's going to be on the lower end of that average and go under 5.5 on FanDuel, minus 112.
Yeah. Again, it's a tough spot. So the recent strikeouts have been interesting, but I feel like it could be a trap play for those looking at it here.
Yeah, so this was one where I saw the 5.5 and I knew he'd been posting some big strikeout numbers. Right. I was like, okay, then now I'm looking into the under, and then I dove into it and I was like, okay, yeah, now I feel good about it.
Yeah, the Mets don't really strike out all that much. So the people are going to see 5.5. They'd be like 9 Ks and 3 of the last 4. Like, what are we doing here? And he's going to probably get on the number there. So my last play today, I did Jason Hayward over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. I also think you could throw a little money on the Freddie Freeman prop, but it's up to 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. And this is purely a Chris Bassitt against lefties play. Chris Bassitt has just been getting absolutely smoked by left-handed bats this season, and they actually hit Hayward in the middle of their, the middle half of their lineup. When a righty is on the mound here, so you'll have an opportunity for him in this Dodgers lineup to go ahead and get a good spot against Bassitt. Against lefties this year, 379 WOBA, a 535 slugging percentage, 14 home runs allowed, 2.3 homers per 9 allowed to lefties, a 19% home run to fly ball rate to lefties there by Chris Bassitt. So Hayward should be up with guys on base here tonight, hopefully, and he just needs a hit and a run to drive him in, or he gets on and someone drives him in. That's what I'm looking for here out of Hayward tonight, and you're getting plus 110 on the play.
Yeah, that's good odds for. I mean, obviously Hayward is not on the level of like a Freddie Freeman, like you're saying, but the plus odds there is pretty nice for that.
That's what I'm looking at, right?
Yeah. All right, my last play before we get to some home run calls for you guys. I'm looking at the Rangers team total over 3.5, minus 145 on DraftKings. A little pricey, but I still think this number is just a run too low. Because on the surface, look, they got JP France here. 3.13 ERA for France, but he's a guy I've been also looking to target in the right spots because He's got a 4.43 FIP and a 4.25 expected ERA, both more than a run higher than that ERA I mentioned. And, the things that are worrisome about him, you look at his overall profile, lower strikeout rate and a high left on base rate. Just kind of worrisome when you face these tougher lineups, which is right here in the Rangers. A lead offense this year against right-handed pitching. Since the All-Star break, a 367 WOBA, 207 ISO versus righties. France is a guy, you look at his season overall, he's posted worse numbers at home than on the road. A 4.91 ERA at home, 5.84 FIP too, 333 WOBA at home. So all these metrics are pointing to the Rangers here. And their team total, I said, it just seems a run too low at least, because the Rangers are averaging 5.8 runs per game since the All-Star break, with at least 4 runs in 7 of the past 10 games. So we know all season long they've been putting up runs, but I just
even without Adolis and Seager last night, they put up a bunch of runs.
Even without Seager, they're still putting up runs. They might not win games all the time, but they're putting up runs here. So I looked at this full game over, but the Rangers are doing like kind of a bullpen game. They got an opener and then a lefty reliever in. So I don't just not fully trusting the Astros side of things, but I like the Rangers. Whether or not they're going to win, I like their team total over.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Again, against France today, good opportunity for them. I know France has a low ERA, but again, a lot of guys' underlying numbers suggest that he's really been outperforming this for a lot of. I know most of the season, Grande and I have been like, "Oh, this is the night France gives it up," and then he just doesn't. But I'm with you here.
Well, this might be the night against the Rangers. It's toughest matchup yet.
Exactly, might be the night against the Rangers for sure. Zach Nato just scratched tonight from the Angels lineup, just for those who are looking at Angels props here. So you never know. Scratch, hug. We got the hug warnings, right? And hug watches and scratch alerts. Right?
Is that a scratch because of a injury or because of a trade, possibly?
Who knows?
I feel like they wouldn't trade Zach Neto.
They can't be trading Zach Neto.
Yeah.
Back scratch due to back. So, okay. And Chris Bryant plays in the DL with a fractured finger. So we're giving you all the updates you guys may need to know here for tonight.
I haven't seen any return yet for the for Kike Hernandez.
I don't think we'll see it for a bit, honestly. Again, they're nothing. They're getting nothing for him.
Yeah.
So just getting him off the team and opening up a 40-man roster spot. That's all they did.
Yeah.
What do you got for your home run call tonight?
Yeah, so those are our picks for tonight. Let's do our home run calls. My home run call tonight, Josh Naylor, plus 400 on DraftKings. He's going against Zach Greinke here, who has allowed 12 homers over his 9 road starts, a 7.42 ERA on the road, and against left-handed hitters, he's allowing a 3.27 batting average, 5.52 slug. Worse numbers against lefties than righties this year. And Josh Naylor here, 11 of his 15 homers this year have come against right-handed pitching. Got better overall splits versus righties as well. Over his last 15 games, he's hitting well. 351 batting average and 5 homers in those 15. So I think he's going deep here. Plus 400. I like it. I looked at a couple guys, lefty hitters from the Guardians rather. But plus 400 on Naylor with his power and how hot he's been at the plate. I like it.
Yeah. No, I was stunned to see his overall stat line the other day when I was looking at it. He's going to mess around and lead the American League in RBIs, hitting over 300. The OPS is almost at 900 now.
It's crazy.
What a year out of Josh Naylor, who was almost out of baseball a couple of years ago, right? He finds his way back onto the Guardians last year, had a couple of big hits, had the walk-off home run for them in one of those games. And then this year, kind of up and down for a little bit first half, and then the last month, he's been absolute nails. So
he's been at the beginning of the season, they've picked it up lately, the Guardians, but the beginning of the season, this Guardians lineup was it was basically, Ramirez and not much else because they've had some guys underperforming, but Naylor's a guy that's really turned it on and it made them a very dangerous lineup now. Other guys too, but for sure it's been Naylor just kind of giving some more backup to Ramirez.
Yeah. For me, my home run call, Christian Walker, plus 450 today. Again, going up against Mats. This guy is just tons of power against left-handed pitching. 272 ISO. 850 OPS, 506 slugging, 359 WOBA. on the year against left-handed pitching here. He's got 6 homers on the season against left-handed pitching. So get homered yesterday. So give me Christian Walker plus 450 on the homer today.
I like that, pairing it with your best bet and fading Steven
Matz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the correlation to a lot of my plays. So.
Yeah. All right, so those are our home run calls today. Appreciate everyone tuning in here. By the way, coming up next, I mentioned at 5 p.m. Eastern, John's pulling double duty with James Grande doing the Quick Pitch MLB DFS live show. And then at 6 p.m. Eastern, with the Alarm Fantasy Baseball podcast with Matt Sells and Colby Conway talking about some trade stuff going down and around the league, trade rumors. And then 7 p.m. Eastern, Campus to Canton with Felix, Chris, and Matt. So you can get some football talking, some college football stuff. Love that. And by the way, if you haven't already, go get the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide that's up right now. We mentioned John's article on Saquon Barkley, which is free for you guys. But a number of articles coming out. Yesterday we had Andrew Cooper talking about what he's got coming out with his tight end draft strategy, all that good stuff. So you can go get that, get it for free with the All Pro subscription if you have that, but $26.99 as well. But with the All Pro subscription, you can get a free 7-day trial for that if you go to fantasyalarm.com/draft guide. So definitely go check that out.
Yep.
But yeah, coming up after us, we got the DFS live show with John and James. So stay tuned for that to get your daily fantasy lineups in. But good luck with all your bets tonight, John. Been real, been awesome.
Yep.
Hopefully,
we'll do next week. Trade deadline
the rain
day,
holds in some of our games tonight.
Yeah, well, listen, we'll have a big show next weekend with the trade deadline going on. So we'll have a lot.
I know, yeah. A week from today, we'll have a bunch of trade. Yeah, 4 p.m. Eastern, we'll be like crazy.
Yeah, we'll be going live right as the bell rings, right? So we'll have some stuff to talk about.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Appreciate your views today and your listens. Always appreciate it. But yeah, tune in tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. Howard Bender and I will be giving out more picks for you guys for Wednesday's slate. But good luck tonight, and we'll see you later.